Have you ever bitten into a perfect piece of chorizo and thought, wow, what a great example of food chemistry? Yeah, probably not. But believe it or not, that delicious sausage is an absolute marvel of science. So let's break it down. The answer? Pretty much everything. To really get under the hood of this everyday food, we're going to deconstruct an experiment that wasn't done in some fancy restaurant kitchen, but in a university science lab. Yup, you heard that right. This whole deep dive comes from a super detailed lab report written by a group of agro-industrial science students. Their mission was to master the art on the science of making chorizo, and what they found is just fascinating. Now let's be clear, this was no ordinary cooking class. The whole point was for the students to use precise scientific principles to make a top-notch product. And then they put it to the test to see if it wasn't just tasty, but if it could actually sell. Okay, so it all begins with the building blocks. Every single thing that goes into chorizo, from the beef down to the tiniest pinch of spice, is playing a very specific chemical role. Let's see how they all work together. You know, we all think of salt as, well, salt. It makes things taste good, but in sausage making, it's a total powerhouse. It's absolutely critical for the texture, and by lowering what scientists call water activity, it basically kicks out bacteria, acting as a natural preservative. All right, get ready for an ingredient you probably don't have in your spice rack: sodium tripolyphosphate. This stuff is the secret weapon. It's an emulsifier. It actually changes the pH of the meat, which helps it hold on to water, and, get this, forces fat and water to mix. We're talking about two things that normally want nothing to do with each other. And why is that so important? Well, because if you don't get that emulsion right, you end up with this. And this is a direct quote from the student's report: a sausage that's mealy and greasy. Yuck. So yeah, that chemical process is the difference between perfection and a total failure. And just look at the level of precision we're talking about here. This is not a pinch of this, a dash of that. It's a straight-up scientific formula. 2,032 grams of beef, 16.35 grams of tripolyphosphate. Every single gram is there for a reason. So you've got all your ingredients measured out perfectly. Now for what is, without a doubt, the most critical and delicate part of the whole operation: mixing it all together to create that perfect, stable emulsion we were just talking about. The order you add things in is everything. I mean, everything. The students had a strict 8-step process. You start with the meat, then the salts to get the proteins working, then ice and liquids, then your spices, and only at the very, very end do you add the fat. If you mess up this sequence, the whole batch is ruined. Now, throughout that entire delicate mixing process, there is one number that is more important than any other: 15 degrees Celsius. That's about 59 degrees Fahrenheit for those of us in the States. So why is that one number so critical? Well, think about it. The friction from those powerful mixer blades creates heat, a lot of it. And if that sausage paste gets any warmer than 15 Celsius, the emulsion breaks. The fat just separates out, and boom, you're right back in mealy and greasy territory. Temperature control is the absolute golden rule here. So after all that chemistry and all that precision, the chorizo is finally made. But the experiment wasn't over yet. Not by a long shot. Now it was time for a showdown, pitting two different cooking methods against each other. So you've got two contenders in the ring. They took their batch and split it. Half of it was boiled, cocido. The other half was baked, ahumado. Then they brought in a panel of taste testers for the final judgment. All right, first up, the results for Team Boiled. And not bad at all. It scored really well on all the key things you want: color, smell, texture, and flavor. The final overall acceptability score came in at a very solid 3.8 out of 5. That's a definite win. But what about Team Baked? Whoa, look at that. The scores are actually even higher in most categories, like color and flavor. So what's the final verdict? The final acceptability score is, wait for it, 3.8. It's a tie. Both methods were a huge success. You really can't go wrong. Okay, so we've established that the chorizo is delicious, but here's the million-dollar question. Could this school project actually work as a real-world product? The students, of course, crunched the numbers to find out. The first thing they looked at was production yield. In plain English, that's how much of the stuff you start with actually ends up in the final sausage you can sell. They hit a yield of over 75%. That's really efficient and means very little waste. Okay, but what about the cost? What's the bottom line? After adding up every single thing, from the meat to the packaging, the cost to make one pack of 3 sausages came out to, get this, just $1.22. So at that price, could they actually make any money? Oh yeah, they aimed for a 25% profit margin, and their numbers showed that was totally achievable. So the verdict is in. This is not just a science project anymore, it's a viable business plan. So after breaking down this whole scientific journey, what are the big lessons? What's the key takeaway we can all learn from these students' awesome work? Well, it really all boils down to 4 main rules. 1, start with great ingredients. Garbage in, garbage out. 2, be precise. Don't just eyeball it, measure everything. 3, have a system and stick to it every single time. And 4, the big one we keep coming back to, control that temperature. And that's really the whole story, isn't it? The next time you're at a barbecue and you grab a sausage, just remember, you're not just holding ground meat. You're holding a carefully constructed emulsion. A little triumph of chemistry, physics, and incredible process control. It's science you can eat. Which really makes you wonder, right? If there's this much mind-blowing science packed into a humble sausage, what other complex, fascinating experiments are hiding out on your dinner plate every night?